But we still went. We still showed up and we still helped that individual. He was having some shortness of breath. He just came from a country that had no infection. And this was very early. We didn't have any protocols in place. So we put on extra PPE. We went in and took the risk. Okay. We helped that patient. We took him to the hospital. We didn't know what it was going to do to us. We didn't know what it was going to do to our family. But we kept showing up day after day after day. Never called in sick because I was scared. None of my coworkers did. I know nobody else did as a first responder. Cops, firefighters, nurses, doctors. They kept showing up, regardless of the risk. So we took that risk. And some people call us heroes. I don't like that title. No firefighter does. No cop does. If you want to make us uncomfortable, call us a hero. We just do what we do because it's what we love to do. I became a firefighter because I love helping people. And for me, I was living the dream all the way up until August. Dream department, dream city, and dream career with a bunch of like-minded individuals I love working with. In fact, I got one right here with me right now, one of my captains. Thank you, Kevin. Captain Kennedy. I know we're represented across the board here with, across the industry, whether we're dock workers or police officers, but we all were required still to show up just for society, right, to rely on us like they always have. And they always can. We would never stop showing up. That's not what we're about. We're about helping the community and doing the things that we love and then putting ourselves in harm's way. Being firefighters, we're risk takers, but we're also risk mitigators. And we make a lot of decisions for ourselves as to how much risk we're going to put ourselves in to help another individual. So risk a lot to save a lot. To save a life, we risk our life. Risk little to save little. And that's what we do. But August, we first heard about these mandates. My wife and I kind of knew it was coming. We saw the mask mandates. We saw how they were treating this. I knew that we have weak leaders and that there's been poor decisions made all during COVID. And so we knew that this vaccine was going to be mandated sometime in the future. That was well over a year ago. We didn't know how it was going to come down or when it was going to come down, but we knew it was a possibility. So we started talking about it, my wife and I. And I remember the first thing we did was we prayed about it. We prayed what we were going to do. And for us, our inspiration, and for my family and my body, my answer was no. Don't take it at all costs. And so that was a decision that we made a long time ago. Now we come up to August, when we were first exposed to it. LA County Health mandate for us, October 1st was the deadline. We heard about it from our chief who came upstairs and told us, you got to be vaccinated on the 1st, or you have to have a religious or medical exemption. For a religious exemption, you have to be either Dutch Reformist or Christian Science. I don't know what that is. Okay. So we had a conversation with the chief. I talked to him personally and said, these are going to be very difficult to get. I don't know any doctor who's just going to pass out a medical exemption, for no reason. There are doctors that will do it for antibody testing, and antibody testing that was even off the table. They didn't even discuss it, okay? I remember asking him, how is the county going to come in here and enforce this? Many of you might not know, but if you're in the fire service, you know that several years ago, they tried to force and mandate the flu shot, okay? The flu shot was mandated. You could say no, you could sign a declination and you had to wear a mask. It was never enforced, it was never forced upon us, so we're never going to lose our job over it. How is this really any different than that? So I asked him about that. He said it's on the employer at that point to be able to enforce how they're going to make their employees comply with this mandate. Now to comply, again, you just have to be vaccinated or have 1 or 2 carve-outs. The city of Beverly Hills had no intention on telling us how they were going to let this thing roll out, or if we could even submit religious exemptions. Later, as the month rolled out, a lot of us started to get nervous. I know we were stressed, we were losing sleep, having a lot of conversations with our wives and our spouses, figuring out what we're going to do. A lot of us were trying to talk with other departments. I know a lot of us were talking with Amy, talking with attorneys, and trying to figure out what our options were of what we could do. We were running out of time quickly. The idea was, hey, let's stand in unity. Let's not show our vaccine card together. Unfortunately, fear was way more overcoming than the courage that we needed at the time, and it happened too quickly for us. So we submitted religious exemptions towards the end of the month with the guidance of our attorney. The city said those aren't good enough, fill out ours, which were essentially the same, but then they had us subject ourselves to interrogation. And I call it interrogation because that's exactly what it was. How can somebody in a Zoom meeting determine your personal relationship with God? And they don't even know you. And they ask you 1 or 2 questions for clarification with no special training and no special criteria. So So as that week went on, many of us went under the same stress. We were losing sleep. Obviously, it was very, very stressful. In fact, there was a few times I was still ill from the stress. I had to go home from work. That week, again, we did our interrogations and we waited our fate. We knew this wasn't just a simple conversation, as they told me in that meeting, but yet our careers hung in the balance. We were never told what our punishment was going to be if we didn't comply. We heard that the city manager said, you're going to be fired on October 1st. There was nothing in writing, there was no policy, there was no procedure, and as firefighters, we operate on that. We're not smart enough to think for ourselves, so we have to have something in writing. There was nothing in writing. He wouldn't answer that question, and neither would the city. So as time kept going on, September 30th came around, and late at night at about 8 o'clock, we found out of the 20 exemptions that were submitted, 14 were accepted. They denied 6 of them. There was no reasoning, there was no justification. They just said that basically it wasn't good enough, your belief wasn't strong enough. If you feel like you're being discriminated against, you can go ahead and file a complaint with us, the same people who made the decision, as the head of HR.
Joke.
5 of my brothers that night were scared. They didn't know what they were going to do to support their families. A lot of them the only breadwinners in their homes, and I don't blame any one of those guys. Out of fear, they went under duress and went and got vaccinated to keep their jobs. I decided not to, and I said, no, I'm not going to do it.
Good.
And so I waited for my fate. October 1st. Like I said, I made that decision long ago. We had many discussions, but I knew that this was a hill that I was going to die. There is no way I'm going to subject myself to that and play into the system, because the way I see it has nothing to do with vaccines, nothing to do with shots, nothing to do with public health. It's just another removal of our freedoms. As Benjamin Franklin said, if you give up a little bit of your freedom for security, you end up with neither nor do you deserve it. I saw that happening from the beginning of this, right? They started removing all our freedoms. They wouldn't let us go to church. They took our kids out of school. They told us what to put on our own bodies. We couldn't even decide what we put on our faces. We had to breathe through a mask now. So for me, that's what it's always been about. And so this is much bigger than just a shot or not a shot. I mean, we can get into all that too. But for me, I knew my decision and I made it. So October 1st came, and I got an email saying that you're relieved of duty and that you're on leave without pay. So essentially, fired. It's been about 6 weeks now, and I've done everything in my power to share my story about how first responders in our nation are under attack. They are trying to weed us out, root us out, bend us to their will, and now I'm being fired essentially for the same principle I got hired for, which is my integrity. And that's the type of person that they hire all firefighters. All firefighters, they go through an extensive background process, interview process, testing process, hundreds of hours of training, thousands of hours of training to get our career. It's something we love to do and we're proud to do it. But because we're all men, we're all good type A personalities that love to run into danger, but at the same time we would give you the shirt off the back. We would pick you up off the ground, okay? We'd make your dinner for you if you couldn't make it. We would do whatever we could to help the community, because that's what we love to do. So now I've done everything in my power, and I'm going to continue to fight against this mandate, the removal of our freedoms. That's what this is all about. Thank you. There is a movement happening. People are waking up, okay?
Yes.
There is a righteous anger that's been dormant inside of all of us for too long, and it's time that we stand up and start talking and start shouting for what is the most important thing of our nation, which is our freedoms, our personal liberties. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for being here.
Please give it up for Josh. A little louder for Josh. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Take the line, 0 to 0. I love it. I want to know how many of you are in somewhat similar positions to Josh. Just raise your hand. Look around, everybody. Guess what? I just talked to a friend who lives in Texas. Isn't that the safe place to go? No. He called me the other day, 3 days ago, and he said the job that I have had, by the way, he's almost 60 years old. He said the job I have loved and had and worked well at and been paid for 20 years, just called me up and said that if I don't get the shot by December 1st, I'm done. Texas, Dallas. Now, how can they get away with it? Because you're like, but wait, the governor passed legislation to prevent that. His company is based out of Germany. So, there's nothing he can do. And so, guess what he's going to do? He's going to get a different job. Yeah. Give it up for my friend. I can't say his name right now. But he's going to get a different job. That's what you do. Don't do what they say. Do what you need to do for your life. You can get another job. You can live in a different house. Your body and your choices and your medical autonomy are more important than anything. Your job is not worthwhile if you're sick. Okay? So listen to me. We need every one of you here to tell 2 or 3 or 5 or as many people as possible to stand up. I will not comply. I would love to say that with this group. On the count of 3, I will not comply. 1, 2, 3. I will not comply! Those are the champions. Last time I checked, we don't go look back at Nazi Germany and say, man, I'm sure proud of all those doctors that forced Jews into concentration camps. Do we ever say that? Did you know they said that in the media, on the streets, to their neighbors? We have the best doctors. They're all named Fauci. Just kidding. It's not true. But we have the best doctors, and guess what they're doing? They're killing people. We live in Orwellian times, my friends. Truth is treason in an empire of lies. Truth is treason in an empire of lies.